It's Handi Hacks with the Bionic Man.
This time on Handi Hacks with the Bionic Man, we're going to take a look at a few ways to make troublesome containers easier to open. I've had issues with this for decades due to my rheumatoid arthritis. I do have the advantage of having my wife and youngest son living with me who can help out, but I have discovered a number of products to help if they aren't around. But before we get to these, here's a quick background story to set the stage. About 20 years ago, I was working with a physical therapist on my arthritic hands, and he brought out a hand dynamometer to test my grip strength. He said, "Squeeze it as hard as you can." I gave it as strong a squeeze as I could muster. He looked at the gauge and said, "Have you started yet?" Later on, I overheard another therapist using the same dynamometer with an elderly woman who was probably in her mid to late 80s. I was probably about half her age. When the therapist read out her score, it was twice as high as mine. My humiliation was complete. With hands and wrists like mine, opening containers is quite the challenge. It's also a big issue for people as they age and lose hand strength. I remember my father-in-law exclaiming in earnest, "They're putting lids on tighter these days," as he got older. While there's a limited amount we can do to slow the inevitable, we can adapt and find other ways to solve these problems. Opening a jar is a classic problem if your hands or wrists are compromised. Back in the day, there were several home remedies. Run the lid under warm water, tap around the lid with a table knife, use a cloth between your hand and the lid for more friction, etc. These often worked, but you still need a significant amount of grip strength. As my arthritis became worse, I was given a rubberized texture disc by my doctor as a Gimply aid. My go-to tool these days is what's called a strap wrench. It's very similar to an oil filter wrench that we used to use when we changed our own oil and filter for the car. The strap is adjustable, it will fit just about any lid, and made of rubber that you place around the jar lid. This gives it the grip, and then you use the leverage of the wrench to open the lid. Today, a majority of jars and lids are made of plastic, and sometimes you need to use a sharp knife to go around the perforation of the lid beforehand. Here's how I open this plastic applesauce jar using this method. It's easier for me to hold the jar with my legs and then put the strap wrench to work. That's quick. Another problem for me is opening pop-top cans. My fingers don't do so well, and while I can use a spoon to get the job done, I found an inexpensive little plastic tool that works even better. It slides over the pop-top, and then with a little lever action, it does the job perfectly. I saw this used by flight attendants when serving passengers on a plane. The device saves your fingers and nails, and it is extremely efficient. And it's Nurse Jasmine approved as well. So for this episode, here are two great tools that I use to help open lids and get the Handi Hacks seal of approval. The Craftsman strap wrench for almost any jar and the Fox Run plastic tab can opener. And here's a bonus tip. Have you noticed the new plastic squeezable ketchup bottles can be quite a challenge? For me, it's practically impossible to squeeze them hard enough to get anything out. A solution that I found is to use the tip of a sharp knife and pry out the added insert where the ketchup comes out.
You got it, you got it. Ah, you did it!
The hole is then wider, and then it's much easier to squeeze out the ketchup you need. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like it and share it with others. If you'd like to see more Handi Hacks, go ahead and subscribe as well. Thanks, and see you next time for another Handi Hacks with the Bionic Man.